What it do, what it do, what it do, lineage, greetings, 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 greetings. This is your brother Chief, man. How is everybody doing? We about to do a little reading right now. We about to get into a little bit of reading. Let me go ahead and I gotta share, get ready to share this screen. Give me 1 second, please. Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. Let's get into this. Hope everybody you guys had an amazing 24, man. And you know what? I'm not even gonna stress this thing. I promise you guys I was gonna get this battery, but I didn't get it. So we're gonna hear a little bit of that fire thing going on in the background. Let's talk about hold on for 1 second, all right? Hold on. All right, let me make sure I have audio on Facebook, which I have. All right, so we got audio on Facebook. We got audio on Facebook. So let's get into this, man. We're gonna do a little bit of reading, okay? And we're gonna be reading from the book Gene-In-SIS to Reevaluation, book 1. All right, literally book 1. Okay, so let's get into this. Let me go ahead and bring this up here for a second. And we're going to start off with chapter 1, just a little bit of reading. We're not going to get into a whole lot of reading this evening. All right, but we are going to get into some reading, right? Maybe I should, you know what? Hold on for 1 second, please, because I'm not going to be dealing with this back and forth thing. Hold on for 1 second. All right, cool. So I'm back. I just wanted to get this thing out of here so we don't have too many distractions with the noise, you know what I mean? All right, so we're going to get into this and we are going to do a little bit of reading. Like I said, first things first, want to give thanks to our ancestors, you know, just want to acknowledge them, you know what I mean? And me personally, I always honor and glorify the righteous ones, but I honor each and every one of them. You dig? So welcome to the build, and let's get into that. All right, we're going to do a little bit of reading. So let's get into it. Book 1, without wasting any time. This is actually literally book 1, okay, because there are actually 3 books, but let's do a little bit of reading. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get into this book, GENE-IN-SIS to Reevaluation. All right, book 1, part 3 of the book. And then once you get the book, you know, you'll realize why the book started with part 3 in chapter 1. The creation of the continents. Where can we find the oldest continental rocks and seafloor? Excerpt. All right, just letting you know where the excerpt came from. The oldest continental rocks are found in cratons. A craton is a stable part of the continental lithosphere, which has survived several cycles responsible for the merge and the dislocation of supercontinents. Cratons are therefore always found within the continents. Some craton in Canada and Greenland shelter the oldest continental rocks in the world, about 4 billion years ago. Let's repeat that. All right, let's get into that again. Let's read just that last sentence. Cratons are therefore always found within continents. Some cratons in Canada and Greenland shelter the oldest continental rocks in the world, about 4 billion years old. Other cratons in South Africa, Australia, and Asia have continental rocks that are about 3 billion years old. Tectonic evolution. North America is an ancient continent in several respects. It contains some of the oldest rocks on Earth. Its interior has been stable for the longest period of time, and it was the first continent to achieve approximately its present size and shape. Although it's known geologically or geologic history spans about 4 billion years old. Two ages stand out as the turning point. The first was about 1.8 billion years ago, when several continental fragments um, coalesced to form the stable crust underlying the Canadian Shield and northern interior platform. The second occurred about 600 million years ago, when fragmentation of ancestral North America created the continental margins, along which the per, peripheral orogenic belts developed. It was then that the present size and shape of the continent was determined. Precambrian time 4.6 to 3 billion years ago. The oldest rocks on Earth occur in the Canadian Shield. Their ages have been calculated from precisely measured ratios of the radioactive decay of trace amongst amounts of certain isotopes in the rock sample. The ratio of neodymium and ceramium was used to estimate the age of the Phoax amphibolite volcanic deposits of the Novanatuc greenstone belt in Quebec, Canada. Now, pardon me if I butchered that French word, okay? But you get the drift. All right. Basically, this is just scientific proof, okay, that the oldest cratons were found in North America. All right. These rocks are estimated to be about 4.25 billion years old. In addition, a similar uranium lead technique revealed that the Acasta genesets, which occur southeast, of the Great Bear Lake in the northwestern corner of the Shield, were at least 3.8 billion and possibly up to 3.96 billion years old. In the northeastern part of the Shield, rocks as old as 3.8 billion years are found on the formerly contiguous coast of western Greenland and Labrador. Rocks in the Minnesota River Valley near the southern limit of the Shield southwest of the Lake Superior range in age up to about 3.66 billion years. There are many occurrences of rocks between 3.5 and 10.5 billion years old, but the oldest rocks known are known to be more than a few tens of square miles in extent. All right, and side notes. North America contains some of the oldest rocks on Earth. In the interior has been stable for the longest period of time, and it was the first continent to achieve approximately its present size and shape. The oldest rocks in the world occur in the Canadian Shield. There are endless geologists and archaeologists that are speaking on the site on this right now, and I assume it's just a matter of time before the mass media starts speaking the truth, because they will have no choice. You see, the truth is being exposed, and soon enough, they will have to teach the truth that the Americas were the first continent that emerged out of the waters, out of the primordial waters. All right. You can do your own independent research, and I am sure you will find opposing arguments. However, I'll be giving you more facts from history and particularly from a spiritual perspective. But the experts are the ones given the American continent its title as the first and the oldest. New international research led by the University of St. Andrews presents a novel way to understand the structure of formation of our oldest continents. Hold on for 1 second. I'm going up too fast. Oldest continents. The research published in the journal Earth and Planetary Science letters reveals how the team from St. Andrews, Greenland, Australia, Denmark, and Canada used magnetic rocks sourced from deep within the earth to sample the interior of the craters as a means to understand how they were formed. Mount Everest, the highest point in the Himalayas, is about 29,129 feet, while the highest point in the Appalachians is in Mount Michel, which is about 6,684 feet. The Appalachians used to be the highest, but they're ancient, and hundreds of millions of years of erosion has worn them down. And once again, I ask everybody to do their own research. All right. At one point, the Appalachian Mountains was the highest mountain in the world. And of course, the source of that information is actually in given in the book as well. Now, we're not going to go over the side notes again because we just read that. All right. So I'm just kind of reiterating that based on archaeological research, scientific research, they are given North America the title of being the oldest, that having the oldest craters in the world. All right. And of course, we have the source of that. America, the firstborn. Study of the American constellations, Scorpio, Sagittarius, and Capricornus, reveals the immemorial antiquity of the name America and the significance of the arms of the United States. Now, immemorial basically means, into endless time, basically, right? So it is saying that the name America was actually written in the constellations, which I've actually taught that before. Okay. The fact once recognized that it is impossible to separate the eagle from America, the land shadowed with the wings of Isaiah, over which accordingly appear two grand eagles, the red swan flying down the Milky Way, and the winged steeds, Pegasus and Equilius, all the wings known to astronomy, without taking the bear from Russia, Perseus from Persia, and a flood of light is poured upon the history and mythology, and where herefore much has been vague and inconstructible. Hold on for 1 second. Incrotable. Now we are able to at least to see men and trees walking. When the following course of the constellations, those irremovably and perpetually fastened upon America, are reached, it will appear that while all that is sublime in the historic past centers upon Egypt, all that is sublime in the prehistoric past centers upon America, and as the curtain which has hitherto concealed the prehistoric connection between the peoples of ancient Egypt and of America is lifted, it will be seen that the people of the eagle on the Nile, being descended from the original people of the eagle on this continent, the twain are one, and that prehistoric America was the original Egypt or Eagle Land prior to the mighty dispersion in the days of Peleg. When the earth was divided and the great globe itself was nearly sent asunder, firstborn of the among the continents, says Agassiz, America has been falsely denoted the New World. Hers was the first dry land lifted out of the waters. Hers the first shorn, washed by the ocean that enveloped all the earth beside. And while Europe was represented only by islands rising here and there above the sea, America already stretched an unbroken line of land from Nova Scotia to the far west. That ancient America, as we shall see, was inhabited by the grand race of men, whom deathless traces has been left upon the waters of the globe and among the stars of the sky. That's what is being said and spoken of the original people of the Americas, the timeless people, the deathless people. And that's why it don't matter How many times they try to get rid of us and try to kill us? They can't, because we are the firstborn. You know, and remember I told you in my teaching that Pharaoh, it's all allegory. Pharaoh tried to kill the firstborn. You know what I'm saying? And even the allegorical Lord in the Bible tried to kill the firstborn. You see, people don't understand what this is all about. And we truly think that the God of the Bible is our God. No, it's not. You feel me? But when you read with understanding and you really get what the Bible is saying, you'll realize that that book, literally, if you don't get what it truly means, it was literally created for the destruction of the original people. But that's a whole nother story. You did. Let's continue reading. All right. Where did I leave off? Give me 1 second. Let me just see if I could catch up. All right. That ancient America shall be inhabited. All right. So let me just read that part again. That ancient America, as we shall see, was inhabited by the grand race, okay, of men. And of course, when we say men, that includes the male man and the female man. All right. We're not going to exclude our women. Okay. I never do. Whose deathless traces have been left upon the surface of the globe among the stars in the sky. Now, if we are a deathless people, a grand race people, how could diseases from Europe come and destroy over 90% of our people? Now, that wasn't us. All right, that was a lie. All that was put in place to make it seem that 90% or more of the original people died off. That's why they are so limited in number, meaning that the natives, they are not the original people. We are still here. We never left. We are a grand race and they can't get rid of us. We are a timeless people because we are the first people. We are the sun people. Okay? We are the mothers and fathers of creation and manifestation. Don't let them fool you with it. All right? When in the course of the following pages, the key of the Great Pyramid, which forms the reverse of the Great Seal of the Secretary of State of the United States, as applied to unlock the mystery of the long submerged islands and long depopulated lands, and cause them to lift up their voices to tell of the feet that once moved in choral dances upon their level floors, as it will appear that the science of the ancient time was as the flight of the eagle, while that of our present colonization, civilization, is but as the burrowing of the mole. All the heraldry of the nations, it will be shown, and all the emblems, ceremonies, and figures of speech of religion and of epic poetry are derived from the art and science, the triumph and the destruction of the ancient Americans. Okay, so all the concepts of religion came from our spirituality. Don't let them fool you. Okay, civilization was built off our culture all over the Americas. We gave the world civilization, but all that had to be stripped away from us. And I've already explained why. But when you read this book, it's going to give you the reason why it all happened, where it started, why it started, the reason it happened. Okay? And what's to come. You did. Let us proceed. America, when this ruin befell, was the seat of the greatest empire that has ever existed, and its irresistible armies were terrorizing all Europe and Asia. Remember I told y'all everything that we are going through is karma because we enslaved the world first. And I'm always going to remind you that life is fair. Life is absolutely fair. Okay? There's nobody judging us in the sky. We are judging ourselves by our actions. So the mere fact that we had this technology, the civilization, we gave the world civilization, we also took it upon ourselves and we enslaved the world. Okay? That's what we did. So mind you, we literally terrorized the world with our civilization and the knowledge that we had. That's why it had to happen back to us in return, because the first had to become the last. And that's why we had to fall to the ultimate level. I've been teaching y'all this for a very long time, but most people don't know why there was a manifestation of man, or even the creation of the earth and the universe. A lot of people don't know the reason why, but I know the reason why. And it's brilliantly laid out in the book. Okay? and exactly what happened, how it happened, and what will happen. Talk about a book of the past, the present, and the future. Prophecy. It's all in here. All right. In America, rediscovered in the 15th century and repopulated in the 17th, was recovered Egypt and the promised land, or the land of the constellation of the eagle, Aquila Aegyptus, and the swan, Cygnus, Canaan, Canada, whose places will be shown to be fixed in America by the same combination of the celestial and terrestrial geography, which gives Russia the bear, to China the lion, to British India the unicorn, and the Great Pyramid, the Pleiades, which with which constellation that gigantic Bible in stone is directly connected by the Herschel, Proctor, Smith, and other of the foremost astronomers. All right. So, like I told y'all before, the name America was written in the constellation, especially the constellation of Capricorn. All right. That name has been existing for a very long time. We are a timeless people. Okay. We are a timeless people. And this was the promised land. So when you read the Bible, you'll truly get what they are talking about when you know the truth. When you know the truth, you will get it. And you'll be able to read that Bible and literally break it down the way it was supposed to be interpreted. It ain't got nothing to do with a sky daddy. Not a damn thing. All right. Let us proceed. This one fact renders it is strikingly appropriate that the first parliament of religions in the history of the world should have been held on American soil, thus bringing together brethren long separated upon the identical continent occupied by their common progenitors before the confusion of the lip, okay, and the tradition wrought by the separation of the survivors of the supreme disaster which wrecked this continent and buried its civilization beneath the so-called drift deposits of the alleged glacial period. Okay. Now, of course, there's a side note. We don't have to go into the side note. The side note is just basically, kind of like reiterating what was said in this whole few paragraphs that we just read. All right. But essentially, it's just showing you that, stressing the point that was made that America was the firstborn. The name has always existed in the constellation. Remember, I told y'all about the constellation of Indus, and then the word Indus, okay, gave birth to the word India, and the entire Americas, particularly South America, is actually literally right under the constellation of Indus. That's why America was called India Superior. All right, man. Like I tell y'all, man, I'm giving y'all jewels. I'm teaching y'all some great information here. All right, boom. Let us proceed. Now, pyramids found in America. When we think of pyramids, most of us immediately think of the Great Pyramids of Egypt, Africa. But did you know that some of the oldest, if not the oldest pyramids in the world are actually found in America? The pyramids of Caral, also known as the sacred city of Caral Soup or Supe, depends on how you pronounce it, are an ancient archaeological site located in Supe village or valley in Barranca province of Peru. Caral is considered one of the oldest and most significant archaeological sites in the Americas, dating back to approximately 2600 BC, making it one of the oldest known complex societies in the region. The site features impressive archaeological structures, including 6 large primordial structures, circular plazas, residential complexes, and an intricate system of sunken circular courts. The pyramids at Kerala are monumental structures made of stone and arranged in a complex architectural layout. Kerala Supe is renowned for its advanced urban planning, monumental architecture, and evidence of a sophisticated society with an organized economy and a complex societal structure. The site provides valuable insights into the early development of the complex societies and urban centers in ancient America. Corral holds the title of being the oldest known city in the Americas and among the oldest in the world. The pyramids in Corral were built over 5,000 years ago. That predates the Pyramid of Egypt, what we call Egypt in Africa, by 100 years. That also predates the Inca pyramids by a whooping 4,000 years. The pyramids had been passed over in 1941 as sand mounds due to how badly they deteriorated. But in 1997, full exploration began in earnest, all right? And the source of the information is there, okay? World's oldest pyramids are discovered. Archaeologists have discovered the world's oldest pyramids on the Atlantic coast of southern Brazil. When the pyramids of Egypt and Mexico, the South American ones, seem to have been built for religious purposes. Some contain hundreds of human burials, complete with spectacular grave goods, including stone plaques, shell breastplates, and beautifully made stone birds, fish, whales, and other animals. But although the function of the Brazilian and Egyptian pyramids were some extent the same, there was certainly no contrast between ancient Egypt and Brazil. And the concept of building pyramids was invented quite independently in both places, dating from 3000 BC. The oldest of the Brazilian pyramids predate the earliest Egyptian example by several hundred years. And when we say Egypt, we're talking about what they tell us Egypt is in Africa. But the original concept of Egypt is actually in the Americas because we took the pyramids across the world. Okay? The construction techniques were also remarkably different. Each Egyptian pyramid being built in one operation, while the Brazilian ones were each built in several phases, possibly over many decades or even centuries. And unlike the Egyptian stone pyramids, the Brazilian ones were built exclusively of seashells. That is why archaeologists in the past had never realized that they were there. For years, Brazilian prehistorians had thought that the sites were simply immense piles of domestic rubbish from the settlements. All right. And of course, you know, the source of the information is there as well. Civilization and the ancient Egyptians. One of history's biggest myths is that civilization started in the Middle East. Of course, when you read books such as Gilgamesh and all that stuff, the Anunnaki, whatever it is, they'll tell you that, or they will suggest that all this civilization started in the Middle East because that's, you know, that's where the in Mesopotamia, that's where the what you call it, the Anunnakis first landed. But that's not true. Okay, it actually started in the Americas. But like I said, even the whole concept of Anunnaki, their goal was also to enslave the original people. So when people talking about, oh well, we the Anunnakis and yes, we all of that. But I don't worship no Anunnaki or nothing like that because they is the same story being retold. Okay, they wanted to enslave us. They wanted to get rid of us. All right, because we were more powerful than they were, than they were, and they didn't like that. They didn't like that because once again, we have to realize that with the manifestation of man and woman, we are the highest intelligent beings. Okay, because why? We are the only ones that could discern. All right, the I am within this body. Because not even the I am know itself. The I am cannot know itself without our experience. That's how powerful we are. because people think that I am is a man or a woman. No, it's not. It is not a he. It is not a she. It is not. It is not a physical being. Okay. The I am is just existence. That's all it is. Existence. It just is. So the I am is perceiving itself through us because we are the highest intelligent beings. That's how special you are. All right, keep that in mind. European historians made this claim and have perpetuated the myth for well over a century. On the contrary, Africa oral history. Now, check this out. That's African oral history. You see, most of Africa know the truth. Don't get it twisted, because that was history that was passed down orally. Okay. On the contrary, Africa oral history and the archaeological evidence suggests that civilization began in South America. The exact time frame in this human civilization started in South America is difficult to establish. However, it appears that when the latest humans from Africa arrived in South America about 40,000 years ago, they found a land that was not only habitable, but was also very rich in agricultural resources. All right. So if these so-called natives talking about the first time they came to America, which we know was a lie, is about 10 to 13,000 years ago from the Bering Strait. Well, guess what? When Africans came here over 40,000 years ago, we were already here. They met us here. And we know that's a damn lie with these natives. They haven't been here. In fact, they haven't even been on our continent for 1,000 years. So what is they talking about? But Africans came from Africa and came into South America over 40,000 years ago, and we had civilization. We were already here. Let them explain that. Let them natives explain that. But like I tell people, we ain't got to prove nothing to nobody. We ain't got to prove nothing to no natives. We ain't got to debate with nobody. These people already know who we are. All we have to do is just step up, unite, come together, and watch people move out of the way. Because the gods are here. We back. You dig? Let us proceed. There was very little agricultural diversity in the African continent that they fled from. Hence, this agricultural diversity must have been a very pleasant surprise. Living in a strange land and surrounded by strange crops and animals is probably what forced the new arrivals to stay together as a group and stay at one place. Because when they first came into the Americas over 40,000 years ago, all our strange crops, our indigenous crops, different forms of animals they had never seen in their life, they were afraid to explore. So they literally stayed in one section. All right. Let us proceed. In fact, some traditional cultural practices among native South American tribes and some African tribes suggest that this tradition may have been started by whom? By women, our matriarchs. Why you think I got so much respect for y'all? Why you think I'm fighting so hard to put you back on the pedestal? Why you think I'm fighting so hard to put you back in play? But like I said before, I can't do it alone. I need my sisters to step up. Walk with me. Let me put you back where you belong. Ain't no ego here. I know my culture. Okay? Let us proceed. You started civilization. You gave the world civilization. It only makes sense because you were the one that were home with the babies. The men were never around. So you had to find ways to feed, to grow, to do everything. Facts over feelings. You dig. Let us continue. Before long, women started the practice of nurturing baby animals until they became adult animals before they were eaten. Hence, agriculture was born. My dear sisters, American original sisters, you created agriculture. Don't let nobody take that away from you. Why do you think they had to bring you down to your lowest denominator? Why do you think they had to take your sons? Your sons, because we are all your sons, right? Why do you think they had to take your sons to use your sons to turn you from a goddess into a female dog, which is a bitch? Okay? We are the only ones in the world that turn our women into female dogs all over the Americas, even in reggae music. And they started doing it in soca, right? In soca too. Okay? We did that. Nobody else could do that but we. We turned against our mothers. That's why we have to pay the price. I'm showing y'all what happened, why it happened. And soon enough, I'm going to tell you what will be happening. In fact, I've already done that in different videos, but it's all laid out in the book. Okay? This is the greatest book I'm telling you you'll ever own. Real talk. Let us read some more. Okay? It is difficult to estimate the time frame in which primitive technology in South America began. It is also not certain how it became. However, about 10,000 years ago, the native South Americans began evolving an amazing technology base. Before long, they had started building an advanced civilization. The ancient South Americans were incredibly indigenous. About 8,000 years ago, they had built an advanced civilization from scratch. All right. Now, mind you, now that we call this South America, there was no such thing as South and North America. It was just one America. Just like how there's just one Africa, just like how there's one Asia, just like how there's one Europe. Okay? It was just one America. It became North and South because of colonization. That was the beginning of, for the most part, it was the beginning of, okay, the divide and conquer, separating us. But it was just one America. You feel me? When it's cold, we go down south. And when I say south, I'm not talking about Georgia and Alabama. I'm talking about all south, all over South America, all over the islands. Okay, that's what we did. That's what our ancestors did. We are one people. Archaeological evidence indicates the center of this great civilization was in present-day Peru. Okay? Perhaps the most important invention of the ancient South Americans was clothing. Perhaps, right? The most important invention that ever was created. Guess what? And guess whom created it? The Americans. We, the Americans. Okay? And it was clothing. We gave the world clothing. What y'all talking about? It was the ancient South Americans who invented cotton, okay, based clothing as we know it today. Why aren't we getting a piece of that? Why aren't we getting residual from that? Why aren't we getting money from that? Okay, because we refuse to come together and unite and claim what's ours. You think they don't know? They know. The entire world know. They know. We're supposed to be in fact, not supposed to be. We're the wealthiest people on the planet. We just don't know it because we want to stay begging the United States for welfare and food stamps and all of this. And then all of a sudden, everything that we have, everything we invented, all of a sudden is patent. Now we're not getting a dime from it. Come on, man. So that's why I tell my people, listen, let's stop focusing on the small things, talking about reparations and we want a few millions. Man, millions. We are trillionaires. What are you talking about? We are gazillionaires. We should be treated like royalty, like kings and queens. Everybody owes us. Everybody. The entire world owes us. And we're not stepping up to collect because we are too divided. We hate each other too much. But like I said, I know why it all happened. Let us proceed. It was the ancient South Americans who invented cotton based on clothing as we know it today. They also invented what? The loom. Cotton is a South American crop. Don't let nobody fool you, man. This is facts over feelings. You feel me? It was the ancient South Americans who figured out the ingenious way to transform cotton into clothing. Cotton-based clothing quickly replaced animal skin as the main form of clothing. The great civilization that the ancient South Americans built is best known for pyramids. Oh, wow. We invented pyramids too. Okay. Pyramid technology is what? A native South American invention. And it was probably their greatest invention. The South American Indians are the only people who ever built pyramids. No other culture built pyramids. No, we went over there and built it there. Man, this is beautiful. Let's read some more. Let's read some more. They built pyramids not only on their land, but also in other parts of the world, where at some time they established a settlement. Contrary to the popular belief, pyramids were built with the use of machines because we had that technology. The boulders were first manufactured and allowed to dry in the sun. The dry, strong boulders were then hoisted into place through the use of man-powered machines. The machines were made from wood and ropes. These machines were very sophisticated and very powerful. The technology behind the boulder making and hoisting machines has been lost to humanity. All attempts to identify this ancient technology have not been successful. This is partly due to the fact that the pyramid building was a very deeply religious activity. Only a few people selected by whom? By the gods learned the technology, man. We are the original gods, my Niji. We are the original gods. Okay? And we have the ability to tap back into all of that. All of it. Another great invention of the ancient South Americans was the art of boat building and sailing. That was our invention. Okay? The ancient South Americans invented boats and rafts. They were the first to build and use boats and rafts for water transportation. Man, listen, man. We are an amazing people, my brothers and sisters. We just don't know how great we are. Okay? We have been diminished to the lowest common denominator. And it was supposed to happen by design. That was the prophecy. Guess whose prophecy it was? It was our prophecy. Because we made the decision from the collective. When the decision was made for us to be manifested first. And as a result, the contract was you manifested first, then you have to become the last. We paid that price first. We made the sacrifice first to manifest here in this physical realm. It was a painful one, but yet still it was a joyful one. It was the greatest manifestation of all time. Man, our ancestors, okay, manifesting from nothing and everything. The absolute into man form and woman form that happened in the Americas. We are the direct lineage of that. That's why when you read the Bible in its allegorical context in which it's supposed to be read, you'll realize that before Adam and Eve, there were people existing. Or else how the hell could Cain go into the land of Nod and find his wife? Okay, the Adam and Eve that's in the Bible is the new race of people that had to create the other races. Okay, that was called not yes, Genesis, but in fact, instead of generations, it was the generation of Adam, but it was our degeneration of us to create mankind. Oh my goodness. Ooh. Chief, I don't know if they're ready for this, man. What? I keep telling y'all, man, I got this. I got this. Let's read this. Let's continue to read. All right. Another great invention of the ancient Americans was the art of boat building and sailing. The ancient South Americans invented boats and rafts. They were the first to build and use boats and rafts for water transportation. Let us proceed. And of course, you know, go over the side notes, kind of reiterating things. All right. And going through so we don't have to do the side notes. All right. Now check this out. The arrival of South Americans, American Indians, and the advent of ancient Egypt. And we are talking about Kemet. All right. But remember, the first concept of Egypt was in the Americas. So therefore, the first concept of Kemet was in the Americas. All right. Let us not get that twisted. According to oral African accounts, at the height of the great South American civilization, there was farming in South America. So, like I told y'all before, there's always farming every so-called about, I think, about 13 to about 15, almost 20,000 years, right? 13,000 years, there's a farming. And also even this the Amazon, okay, the Amazon kind of like, because of the tilt of the earth, the Amazon sometimes switch every 13,000 years, switches with certain parts of Africa. So we experience that drought and they experience the forest. All right. And the next 13,000 years, we experience the Amazon as the forest and they experience that dry desert. Man, I'm telling y'all, man, this is amazing. Okay. There was a prolonged drought that led to the widespread farming. Their gods ordered them to take to the sea and travel in a given direction, and they would find some people who will give them food. You see, we were always connected to the gods because we had that connection. We were able to communicate to the gods. And when I say communicate to the gods, I'm talking about to those that came before us. That was our culture. You feel me? But now we here worshiping all these false idols. We got to let it go. All of them. We have to let them go to be great again, because their gods are keeping us down. Their gods are killing our people. Their gods are taking our people and sending them to that same hell they think they're running away from. All right. But all that stuff is actually in the book. So get your copy right now. Okay. A very strong balsa raft was made, and the strongest young sailors in the land were chosen to the undertaking and the journey. When the chosen sailors took to the sea, they found a trail of man-made artifacts that floated on the water. This trail of the artifacts led them to the northern part of Africa, okay, coming from South America. The South American sailors had located one of the primitive African groups. So our people have always mixed in with different cultures of the world. You feel me? So we actually met primitive Africans for the very first time at that point. Okay? Or at least what was known. You feel me? The South Americans were surprised and probably even scared at the sight of black people, because they were real so-called black people. They real dark. We are a copper brown people. Okay, cinnamon. But we literally saw those real dark-skinned people. Okay? The Africans were surprised and probably even scared at the sight of the red men. All right? Now, we know what Indian red looks like, so we don't have to get into that. You feel me? The so-called Native Americans cannot take credit for that, because even with their lie, they said they have been here from the Bering Strait. They came into the Americas for the very first time about 13,000 years ago. Well, now we're talking about over 40,000 years ago. So obviously that cannot be them. All right? So we know who the Red Indians are. So we don't even have to debate that. And that's why they had to take the Indian red out of circulation, because they're talking about, oh, well, they didn't want to confuse people. And yeah, okay, yeah, right. So why did you do it in the first place? Didn't you think that it would confuse people? Like I told y'all before, man. Let us continue reading. Okay, let me see. All right, the African did it. Okay. Although they were using sign language, because sign language is one of the oldest languages, okay? The Africans understood that the red gods, okay, the red gods, you heard? All right, were looking for food. The red gods. When have you ever heard a native call himself a god? Because they're not the gods. All right, we are the original gods. You dig? Although, in fact, let me not turn that into a Native American thing. All right, let's just read this for what it is. All right, because like I tell people, I'm not going to debate or, try to prove to nobody who I am or who we are. Okay, I know the truth, and we're just going to deal with that. Simple as that. It was the first time that the Africans saw clothing or a raft. The first time Africans saw clothing or a raft is when we took it into Africa. The leader of the African group was a young hunter called what? Khufu. Pay attention, Khufu. Khufu was an obvious leader. He was tall and very physical. The African had an abundance of wild grain. Khufu signaled the gods to wait for them, okay, which is our ancestors. The African men walked away. Soon they returned with several women carrying large baskets filled with grain. The women were fascinated at the sight of the red men. African oral, now check this out, African oral. So we don't have to go and listen to anybody with their nonsense. All right. We're talking about oral history that was handed down and passed down. And Africans were if not the only or some of the very few groups of people whose traditions were passed down orally. So trust me, that story is somewhere in many places in Africa that know the truth. They know who we are. And they know our ancestors brought civilization to their continent. They know the truth because it was passed down orally. So let us read some more. African oral accounts suggest that for the next 2 or 3 years, the farming in South America persisted. The South Americans kept coming for grain. It appears that in their great farming, the South Americans survived on the grain that they got from the African people. The devastating drought in South America finally ended. The rains returned, and the South Americans were able to produce food. However, they have not forgotten Khufu and his people. Because of the desert conditions and the persistent drought in South America at that time, their priest decided that they needed to establish a permanent relationship with the Black people in Africa. According to the African, again, oral accounts, their gods ordered them to go to the land of the Black people and build a pyramid for Khufu. Several raft loads of pyramid builders arrived in Africa, complete with supplies and support staff. With the help of the Africans, they built several houses that were made of circular and rectangular and huts roofed with dry, tall grass. This simple and yet ingenious architecture was a novelty to what? Africans. Don't let them fool you, my brothers and sisters. Okay? We give civilization to the world. For the first time in the history of South American Indians, they had set up a settlement outside of South America. The civilization that we know today as ancient Egypt had begun. It was the first time that the pyramid civilization was taken outside what? South America. It also marked the beginning of the interaction between South American and Africa that lasted 6,000 years. Okay? So when you hear talking about, oh, well, the richest man in the world was, what's his name? I forgot the with all the gold. What was his name? Where do you think they got all that gold from? All that came from the Americas, man. People better stop playing with me. Okay? Let us proceed. The beginning of ancient Egypt. The construction of Khufu's pyramid united the Africans behind South Americans. The South Americans introduced clothing, spices, and delicious dishes to the Africans. Most of all, the South Americans could cure illnesses. The concept of medicine did not exist in Africa prior to the arrival of South Americans. What y'all talking about? Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not here to put down our African brothers and sisters. I'm not here to put down our Asian brothers and sisters or European brothers and sisters. No, I'm just here to let the world know that we got to get our respect, man. But we are not going to get the respect until we start respecting ourselves. Okay? We are not going to be acknowledged as the ones, the progenitors of civilization, the progenitors of saving the world. We're not going to, come on, man. It is not the first time we saved the world. It is not the first time. Look what happened to Europe. Okay, the Black Plague and killing over 50 million people, if not more. Some people have accounts of over 100 million. The Reconstruction period. was built off what? America. This is nothing new under the sun. But nobody wants to give us credit because we're not giving ourselves the credit, because we're not stepping up together and saying, listen, man, we know the truth. We're not asking anybody to leave. No, we're not asking that, because people are actually coming back to their mothers and fathers. When y'all truly know the truth, y'all going to chill. This is not a debate or a war against anybody. This is a war against ourselves. It's an internal war because we are fighting ourselves. Let us proceed. So we don't have to do the side notes, okay? The side notes is just kind of reiterating what we just read. You feel me? Let us proceed. Traditions of the earliest visits of foreigners to North America. All right? The Atlantis tradition, our first authority for the existence of America and its inhabitants by human beings thousands of years before the discovery of Columbus, was Plato, the famous Grecian philosopher. He does not mention America and its inhabitants in so many words, but when he designates a large island called Atlantis in the Atlantic Ocean, opposite the Pillars of Hercules, from which the inhabitants passed over to the continent beyond and vice versa. The location of the continent is such that we can reasonably infer it was America, although it is preposterous. Pardon me. Presupposes. I'm getting tight down here for a second. Although it was presupposes, okay, a knowledge of the geography far in advance of the times. Plato, in his Thaumaeus and Critias, gives the Atlantis tradition as Solon, the wise man of Greece, learned from the Egyptian priests while visiting their country in search of knowledge during the latter years of his life. This island was called Atlantis, and if there were ever was such a body of land between Europe and America, it might have been easy enough for some of the inhabitants to have crossed over to America and for Americans to have crossed over to Atlantis. There have not been wanton scientists who believed they had found in the modern world evidence of the existence of this island in the ancient world. Though the way it is yet long to the confines of its remote period. But while older and older records are constantly being found on the land, human relics amid seismic wrecks may also be lifted from the bottom of the sea, which will help to convince the incredulous that a vast island between Europe and America was once submerged with all its people, as stated by the Egyptian priest. This account of Atlantis by Plato leaves undetermined whether America was originally peopled from Atlantis or whether Atlantis drew its primeval inhabitants from America. It is easy to assert or prove one as the other, but as Plato have not specifically decided the question, I shall not presume a decision. It is sufficient for my purpose that Plato says the Atlanteans subdued parts of the continent which by its location must have been America, which they could not have done unless there had been continental inhabitants there to subdue. The Atlanteans would hardly have peopled the neighboring continent for the sole purpose of its subjugation, and it cannot be an unwarranted inference, therefore, that America was not indebted to Atlantis for its population. Basically, just making the argument that Atlantis did not populate the Americas, but the Americas populate Atlantis. But let us read some more. Even in the Phoenician traditions, Diodorus Siculus, who flourished 3/4 of the century before the Christian era, furnished a somewhat detailed account of a great island in the Atlantic Ocean west of Africa. Now, if the Phoenician in ancient times discovered a very great island west of Africa in the Atlantic Ocean, it could hardly have been one of the Azores, the Madeiras, or the Canaries, or the Cape Verdes, because no one of these groups is large enough or distant enough from Africa to answer the description. The Chinese tradition. The third account we have of the early visits in America is that of the Buddhist priest from China in the 5th century of our era. As you could see, there has been many migrations of different ethnic groups into the Americas all through the 5th century, the 2nd century. All right. And I promise you, these men that were traveling, all right, they were not traveling with their wives. So when they traveled and they came to this paradise, okay, a lot of them stayed and never went back home. So you'll start seeing, once you start seeing family reunions, you'll start seeing so many different admixtures of people within us to validate and prove that we are the original people here. Because people were mixing with us. You cannot find that admixture in any other ethnic group. Why is that? Not even in Africans, you will find that admixture as it is in the Americas. Because everybody came in and mixed in with us. So how could any other ethnic group claim that when they don't have the admixture of all the people who came before? Come on, man. You see, it doesn't take a lot to learn the truth. You just have to know enough and put the pieces together. And that's what I'm doing. That's what I've done. It's the greatest book ever written. Facts over feelings. All right, let's read some more. Their missionaries went from land to land bearing images of Buddha and preaching his doctrine for the conversion of souls. The monk by the name of Hoi Shin made a very long voyage and claimed to have reached what has been pronounced the American continent in the year 499. All right. Columbus wasn't even born yet. He called the country Fushang, and it was claimed to have been explored properly as far as south as Mexico. The resemblance of the American Indian to the Asiatic races is held by some to establish the theory that Mongolians did cross from the northwest of Asia into the Americas. But would it not have been as easy for Americans to have crossed over to Asia as for Asiatics to have come to the Americas? Either would have been possible, and one is probable as the other. The Asiatic races could has satisfactorily be traced back to the Americas as the Americans traced back to the Asiatics. Hui Xian, however, if he was a discoverer of the Americas or America, found America according to his own account already peopled, and by the people who must have been here for a very long time. Now, don't get it confused. When you hear Asiatic people, you start thinking of the people you know as Asians today. No, we are talking about the original Asians. Okay? And when you hear many of the Moors speak, they will tell you about the original Asians. Even Dr. York speak of the Asiatic original so-called black man. All right. So let's keep that in perspective. All right. So we don't have to go to the side notes. Let us continue. America, the oldest continent, oldest of the continents. We knew that the Eastern Hemisphere existed and had existed for thousands of years. But disregarding the claims of some of the ancients, we did not certainly know of the Western world until it was discovered by Columbus, and as the discovery as new. The country discovered was called New also. This continent may have outlined beneath the universal ocean long before its upheaval, but it was not first. This was its first appearance. above the waters, and it was before any of the other continents made its appearance above the sea. All right? More information, another source validating that America was the first to appear above the seas out of all the continents. All right? As it first appeared, America was a mass of metamorphic rocks, contorted and crumpled and twisted and jumbled into the shape which had nothing of the appearance of suitableness for the plant or animal life. It, however, got the start of other continents, and is there no good reason for supposing that it did not continue in the lead until it became the habitation of what? The original man. Oh my goodness. Wow. It has recently, however, been contended by some of the most eminent of geologists that North America was the first of the continents in the Canadian Geological Surveys. The earliest sedimentary rocks were found in Laurentian Mountains, and as no older rocks have been found anywhere, America was pronounced the firstborn of the continents. America, the first inhabited of the continents. Even the wise Thomas Jefferson believed, and of course, in the word believe is the word lie. All right, but we're not going to deal with the belief system. All that is recorded in a university where it could be verified. All right, so now we're dealing with facts and no longer beliefs, but that was his belief. That was his belief. Okay, so let us read that America was the first seat of the human race, and that the Eastern Hemisphere was peopled from the Western. Okay, he wrote a letter to President Stiles of the Yale College, because that letter is still there at the Yale College, in 1786, while he represented the United States at the court of France. Was published in the American Museum for November 1787, page 492. From this letter, the following extract is taken, clearly stating Mr. Jefferson's belief that the first inhabitants of Asia, who so much resembled American Aborigines, okay, went from America to Asia instead of coming from Asia to America. Y'all better wake up, man. All right. Now, quote, open quote, I return you my thanks for the communications. Now, that is Thomas Jefferson speaking now, okay? So we are quoting this now, okay? Direct from the letter that is there right now, that could be verified. Let's make sure we know that this is facts, okay? Relative to the Western country, when we reflect how long we have inhabited those parts of America which lie between the Allegheny and the ocean, that no momentum has ever been found in them, which indicated the use of iron among its aboriginal inhabitants, that they were as far advanced in arts, at least, as the inhabitants on the other side of the Allegheny. A good degree of infidelity may be excused as to the new discoveries which support regular fortification of brickwork to have been in the use among the Indians on the waters of Ohio. Entrenchments of earth they might indeed make, but bricks is more difficult. The art of making it may have preceded the use of iron, but it would suppose a greater degree of industry than men in the hunter state usually possess. I should like to know whether General Parsons himself saw actual bricks among the remains of the fortifications. I suppose the settlement of our continent is of the most remote antiquity. The similitude between its inhabitants and those of the eastern parts of Asia render it probable that ours are descended from them, or they from ours. The latter is my opinion, founded on the single fact: among the red inhabitants of Asia, there are but few languages radically different, but among our Indians, the number of languages is infinite, which are so radically different as to exhibit at present no appearance of their having been derived from a common source. The time necessary for the generation of so many languages must have been immense. The Red Indians were the oldest inhabitants of America known to the pale men, though there were here doubtless older beings who antedated them by many centuries and had been traditions to their origins. America did not need immigrants from the East or from any other terrestrial source to begin their population. America possibly had citizens to spare while the Eastern Hemisphere was void of inhabitants. We had so many people here. We had people to spare, to send in different parts of the world. Okay? In the Mammoth Cave of Kentucky, a mummy was to be seen early in the last century, about the age which no reliable conjecture was formed from the fact that it was said to have been removed from an adjacent cave without noting with the sufficient particularity the original position is occupied. As it appears in the Mammoth Cave, it was sitting in the excavation about 4 feet away and 3 feet deep. The skeleton, that of a female, was perfectly preserved, with the flesh and the skin dried upon it. It was clad first in the skin of a deer, and over this was a mantle, which of the inner bark of the hidden tree. The hair was cut short and was of a dark red color. The woman was above average size and was neither black nor red, but of a light complexion. We're talking about our red bones right now. You heard me? How long she was an occupant of the cave, we have no means of determining, of even or rationally estimating, but with the cave was 2 million years old. 2 million years old in that cave, right? The cave was 2 million years old. As stated by Professor Schaller, she might be allowed a few thousand of these years for this enjoyment of the darkness and the solitude of her subterranean abode. The first formed rocks which have yet been seen upon the globe, and the earliest forms of life yet discovered, and the oldest human relics which have yet been found were what? In the Americas. Even Thomas Jefferson is eloquently putting that in a letter that he wrote, which is still there and could be verified as facts because he did his due diligence. Okay? If, therefore, man first lived and died and laid down his bones in the Western world before he died and laid them down in the Eastern Hemisphere, why should we look for this origin in the East instead of the West? Why not claim him where he first find his remains, instead of troubling ourselves about the time of his coming and the place whence he came? The Orientals have not been able in thousands of years to fix the latitude and longitude of the Garden of Eden. Okay? Because they know it's not in Asia. They know it's not in Africa. Let's stop playing the games. Let's stop playing the games. All right? Where the human race is claimed to have first begun existence. And as the question is still open, the Occidentals may reasonably claim America as the first land above the ocean and the first inhabited by man, until the proof is made clear of an earlier inhabited continent. Now, let me explain something to y'all. The first original concept of the Garden of Eden is in the Americas. The Garden of Eden that was in Asia, that was the Garden of Eden where mankind was created. Y'all better stop playing with me. Okay? Stop playing with me, man. I'm not the one. Americans should be proud to claim theirs as the first of the continents to rise above the waves of the universal ocean, and the first to furnish an abiding place for the human race. America, long deprived of the honor of her proper place among the continents by being called the New World, has at last being pronounced by geologists for the first to exist, and the analogical inference is reasonable that she was the first to be inhabited. I'm talking about by geologists, archaeologists, and real historians. All right, facts over feelings. Americans expect of the scientists that they all continue to study the rock-lived volumes of the world and to search among the undestroyed remains of the primeval man until it is clearly determined that as America is the oldest of the continents, she was also the first to be inhabited by man. And we could go ahead and read the side notes and all of that and all of that and all of that. All right. I'm going to stop reading for now. All right. We'll do another video and we'll get into prehistoric man, the human race, and its dispositions. All right. So just wanted to do a little bit of reading this evening. All right. Continue to share this knowledge to my brothers, my sisters, to people of the world. You dig? So like I told y'all before, the link is in the description. Get your copy of this book because you want to make sure that this is handed down to the children. You want to make sure that everybody got one because this is our new Bible. Because I'm telling you, everything is broken down in there. They're not going to teach that in schools. They're not going to teach it that way in college. The greatest book ever written. I'm reading from that for you this evening. All right. So like I said, the link is in the description. So go get your copies right now, ASAP. You gotta have that in your collection. If you don't, then you don't know what you're missing. You're missing out. We gotta pass that down. All right. In another video, we are gonna do a part 2 of this, and we're gonna continue reading. Okay. Even in the let me see. I'll tell you exactly what it is. Even in the prehistoric man, the human race, and the dispositions, it breaks down who the Americans are, and it breaks down that we are a distinct race of people. All right. America is a race, and we're going to get into all that. American is a race. Okay. So like I said, the link of the book is in the description. Go get your copy right now. All right. Let's get this out to our people. All right. We got to stop the nonsense. We got to stop all the brainwashing. We got to stop all the foolery. We got to stop that. We, as the people who know, we got to stand up. All right. And we are the ones that have to change the perspective. We are the ones who have to kind of like teach our people so that we're able to make the paradigm shift to where we need to be. You see, the world knows. They know. It is up to us right now. We got to play our part. We got to take the baton. We are the ones who have to pick up this and lead the way. Nobody else but us. And this is where it begins with GENE-IN-SIS to reevaluation. All right. So let me give a few shout outs before I get out of here. Okay. First off, all right. Goddess Empress Everlasting Water. Big up yourself. Kick rocks. What it is, my Lord. What's going on, my Lord? What's going on? We lords of the land. All right. That's what we should be calling ourselves. We are landlords. We are all lords. Okay. And as the ladies, they're ladies, and a lady is a female version of a lord. All right. So we are stepping back into that OG, what it is, what it is, what it is. All right. No doubt. Got my books. I ordered. Thank you. No doubt. OG. Do me a favor, please. Go into the Facebook page and definitely give some reviews, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you need that information, reach out to me. I'll make sure you get it. Much appreciated. All right. Zazie, big up yourself. Wow, go on. Bliss. You dig? Yeah, Mansa Musa. Yeah, that's what I'm talking. Mansa Musa, the richest man in the world. Man, listen, they came and raped our land. What y'all talking about? The entire world got richer for us. The world didn't get richer for Africa. In fact, Africa got richer for us. So how could the world get richer for Africa when we were the one who enriched Africa? Y'all better stop playing these games with me, man. And like I said before, I'm not here to hate on my African brothers and sisters. No, I'm not taking nothing away from y'all. All right, but put some respect on our name. All right. And no, I ain't Birdman. I'm not Birdman, but put some respect on our name. Okay. Okay. All right. So we have on Facebook, Tafari Lion, big up yourself. Oya Tabiti. I hope I'm not, butchering your name, but just want to say thank you. Mediha Crawford, big up yourself. David Arnold, big up yourself. Juanita Thomas, big up yourself. My sister Diane Core, big up yourself. Lupe Rosario, big up yourself. All right. So that's all the people I see on here. I'm giving a shout out. Okay. So you guys enjoy the rest of your 24. Rest well. Happy sunrest. I love y'all, man. I love y'all to wholeness. Okay. Not to pieces, but to wholeness. Because we're making our people whole. We are home. Okay. We are home. Let us stand up and be proud to be who we are. We are the true and only Americans. All right. Well, put it this way, the original. You feel me? And whatever the parents are, the children are. So we have to stop fighting with everybody, debating everybody. Okay. They know the truth. And the only way for things to come back in order is for them to start honoring their mothers and fathers. It is really that simple. Even in the allegorical book, it says it. The greatest allegorical book ever told said it. Honor your mother and father so that your days will be longer. All right? I love y'all. Rest well. Go into the description. Go pick up your book right now. We'll talk soon. Take care.